want to bring us down to basics, to be honest, the basic principles, because it's so easy to get carried away with all this fancy stuff around customer experience that it's very easy to forget the basic principles of what we're trying to do. So I'm afraid mine's going to be a bit basic about basic principles. I've discovered through 20 years of working in this area and working with all kinds of organizations, just to give you an indication, all kinds of organizations. That's just about 5 years of organizations, myself or my organizations have had done, mainly British, but you'll see there's some international there. They tend to ignore the basic principles, and so we spend an awful lot of time working with them on, if you don't get the basics right, you can play around with all the fancy stuff, but it won't give you the results you want. So I'm going to talk about basics. And I want to introduce you to somebody who will have infected all of you. He'll have affected you all, and it's this fellow here. Now, you may not know who he is, but if I tell you his name, but I can assure you he's at play, or his thinking is at play, probably in all your businesses. His name was Vilfredo Pareto. Does that ring a bell? We all know about the Pareto principle, the Pareto law, but it gets so easily forgotten because everywhere you look, you'll find it or a version of it applying. His first creation was because he discovered that 80% of the property on land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population, which basically meant that 80% of the wealth was controlled by 20% of the people. But if you, from my experience, 20 years of doing this kind of stuff, first of all, you find that if any of you are involved in organizational change, there's stats and research everywhere that tells you that something between 70 and 80% of all organizational change programs the world over fail to achieve the objectives that we used to start the program. But it applies in other markets too. Any of you in manufacturing businesses, you'll probably know that we've gone through phases of TQM, Total Quality Management, business process re-engineering, and most of them did not achieve the goals that were intended for them. The vast majority, often 80%. And until we discovered something called systems thinking, or it's often called lean, that does work. That achieves worthwhile results. And so we're kind of stuck with that now. The smart businesses are using system thinking or lean processes. And certainly in my experience, exactly the same things are happening in this area that we're interested in. Some years ago, everybody was going mad for something called CRM, Customer Relationship Management, as if a piece of software could manage a relationship. Come on. As if a piece of software could manage a relationship. All it can do is manage information. Present it, store it, analyze it. That's all it can do. It can't manage a relationship. That's person-to-person relationships. But everybody was spending fortunes on CRM. It didn't work. 80% failed. We're now on CX, Customer Experience. And you'll see the title of my presentation was Why CX Isn't Working and What Does Work. So I'm going to talk to that. What is it? By the way, you'll notice we keep looking down here. There's a reason. There's a timer down here. And if that gets to 0, this stage just opens up and we just disappear. So if you suddenly see me disappear, it's because this thing's hit 0. Anyway, so let's go. So there was some research done in America about 2 months ago, and this was released. This caused a wave going around, certainly the English-speaking internet, of, oh my goodness. Just 3 months ago it was, an article was published by this organization in America. And what they discovered was this. They spoke to about 2,000-3,000 CEOs. 17% of them said that their customer experience strategy had not, 17% had created differentiation, 83% failure rate. Only 23% that had given tangible business evidence. So here we go again. Mr. Pareto is there again, working his spell on business. The answer is 80% failure rate in CX programs to achieve the goals that were set to justify the expenditure and the resource use. So what do we do about it? How do you get on the 20%? Okay, I want to start with this fella here. I don't know if any of you ever come across him. He's an American psychologist. He actually has a Nobel Prize, but his Nobel Prize is not for psychology. His Nobel Prize is for economics. And what he's discovered is the economics of making a purchase decision, making decisions. I will buy that, I won't buy that. And that's what he got his Nobel Prize for. And what he says is this: most decisions we make are based on our recollections of past experiences and our expectations of future experiences, not the experience. Yet we spend all this money focusing on the experience. It's the key bit in the middle, but it's not where the decision's made. Decision's made in what we think the experience is going to be like, or what it was last time we had it. That's where the decision is made. So we're missing something by focusing purely on experience. To put that into a kind of a picture, we have three mind states. One is the current mind state. I'm thinking about what's happening now. There's a future mind state. I'm thinking about what could be happening. And there's a past mind state. I'm thinking about what did happen. If you're to think about how powerful they are, the current mind state in terms of influencing loyalty is the least influential. The next most influential is the future mind state. The most powerful is the past mind state, reflecting on what it was like last time. So there's a key question. If your experiences are going to make a worthwhile difference, it's all about what people remember of them, because that's the powerful mind state. That's the powerful decision influencer. What will they remember from the experiences they have of your organization? That's the focus. So one is expectation management, one is experience management, one is memory management. Three completely different things. If you read Kahneman, they are not the same. They're completely different things. So yes, the bit in the middle, yes, we want some experience management, but we must not forget that this is more powerful, experience management, managing the future experiences. Most organizations haven't got that joined up. They let the salespeople tell them what they like, marketing tell what advertising they like, and then we can't deliver it. And memory. What are the strong memories they have from the experience? That's the most powerful. Add them together, and we get something which I've been focusing on for the last few years, loyalty management. Okay, I'm going to just quickly touch on memory. That's the most powerful one, so I've got 7 minutes to go. So it opens up, doesn't it? You said there's a big hole in the stage, Chris, and you're going to disappear down it. Okay. Memory, what will they remember? Will a customer remember something, we could have satisfied, more than satisfied, less than satisfied. We could say I'm delighted and I'm dissatisfied. I like simple words. Wow, it was fantastic. It was kind of okay. Ouch, it was painful doing business with them. It hurt in some way. Would you remember something which is painful? Is that memorable? It hurts, it's irritating you. Is that memorable? Of course it is. Would you remember something? Gee, that was fantastic. I've never experienced anything like that before. Would you remember that? Yes. Would you remember something that's kind of as you thought it was going to be? They did what they said they would. It arrived on time at price. And you would remember that? Not memorable. So there's this scale. The closer to the extremes you get, the more memorable it comes. Quickly turn that into something that's practical. I've drawn a scale of how memorable something is from you can't even see it at the bottom, it's invisible, to wow, I'll never forget it at the top. And somewhere, and here's the experience. It's terrific on one side, terrible on the other. Somewhere around the middle, you could draw a line, and that line would say, above that line, you'll probably trigger memories, below it, you won't. And you join them together with this kind of, the more to the extremes you get, the higher up the memory scale you go. So what? So this. We start triggering memories when we pass that line on the positive side. And the higher up you go, the more memorable it will be. We trigger memories when you do it on the negative side. And the more it hurts, the more irritating, the more annoying it is, the more memorable it will be. And there's a third one, which I find amazing is overlooked by so many businesses. It's ignored by some. Even most who understand this third technique don't do anything about it. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The most powerful memory-making technique you can use. Technical term is recovery. It's taking something which is a negative and turning it not into a neutral, taking away the pain, it's turning it into an extreme positive. The most memorable experience a customer can have is recovery. In my sessions with groups of people, I often ask them, bring me your experiences of great customer experience that you've had. And you think they'll bring you wow experiences. They don't. They talk about recovery. Oh, that went wrong. You won't believe what they did for me then. Recovery experiences. The most powerful memory-making thing there is. most organizations don't even know what it is, and even those that do, the most of them do nothing about it. They don't use the power of it. So if we want to influence future purchasing decisions, those are the three things that will have the most influence on them. Wows will be positive, ouches will be negative, recovery is extremely positive. And if you want to get a rough idea of just how powerful, I've tried to simplify most of the research that's currently around and express it in something that's easy to understand. So imagine this. Imagine, just like you can have a bank account, you could have something you could call a customer loyalty account. And you can make investments in it and build loyalty, and you can take withdrawals from it and reduce loyalty. Okay, so you're happy with that as a principle? Well, if for every wow, every one of those, a typical wow experience, we added a +1 to the loyalty account, the impact of those other two would be as follows. So for each wow, you'd get a +1. For each out, you'd get a -3. In other words, a 3 withdrawal from loyalty. But look at recovery, a +6. That's its power. So what? I started by a picture of somebody who is influencing all you. I thought I'd end with a picture by somebody who's seriously influenced me. Have any of you come across Dr. Stephen Covey and his thinking? I was fortunate to know him and to do a lot of presentations with him, chaired some of his events for him. One of the most principled men I've ever met, one of the smartest men I've ever met. And he wrote his book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think 10 million copies sold now worldwide. He sadly died a couple of years ago, but an incredible individual. And his habit number 2 is the one that I want to ask you to think about. Because habit number 2 says, begin with the end in mind. In everything you do, begin with the end in mind. What do I want to achieve when I get to the end of this? What is the goal? What's the objective? What we're trying to make happen? What's the end? And I would suggest the end is not customer experience. That's a step along the way, but that's not the goal. I'm thinking, I used to chair an event like this that used to take place in London every year. For 4 years I chaired it. It was called the European Conference on Service Management or Customer Management. And we'd have about 1,000 people come for 2 days. That was a big event. And I used to enjoy looking at the names and titles of the people who were attending. And this was back in the early 2000s. And when it began, you would see most people had the words customer service in their title. Customer service manager, customer service director, that would be the title. And then it moved on, and the IT industry invaded our subject, and CRM became the thing. So suddenly these people who were called customer service managers or customer service directors became customer relationship director. And so for a period, those were the titles appearing on. That conference doesn't take place now, but I'm sure that if we were to run that conference again, we'd see an awful lot of customer experience managers, customer experience directors, because that is currently the hot topic. I wrote a paper recently about there's an epidemic going around the world of customer experience, like a disease spreading around the world, and it's spreading. I have an ambition, I have a goal. I've just finished what's going to be my next book that comes out in May, and it's called Creating Customer Loyalty. Not creating customer experiences, creating customer loyalty. So if I achieve my goal, I will start to see people calling themselves customer loyalty managements, customer loyalty directors, a director of customer loyalty. I will go, yippee! Because in my view, it's all about loyalty. Thank you.